Hi, this is Bonnie, and today I'm going to be working with two Fairy Hugs flower fairies. This one's called Valerie's Pansy, and this one is called Rosalie's Rose. And as you can see, these are a fantastic set. You not only get at least 3 different flowers, you also get a fairy. And in this case, you even get a little butterfly. So these are really a great combination. If you consider the pricing, it's fabulous. So let's get started. So what we're going to do today is I am going to be making, they can be tags or they can be side of a part of a card that you can add to. So I am going to be using, instead of the stamping platform to begin with, I'm just going to be using a acrylic block. And I'm also going to be using the Distress sprayer, and I'm going to be using some mini Distress inks. So for this first one, I'm doing the rose, and I am going to be using, let me see if I got that right. Yeah, I'm going to be using the Festive Berries and the Evergreen Bough, or Bow, not really sure which way that's pronounced. So all you're going to do is you're just going to randomly, or not really randomly, you're going to deliberately kind of like stamp on top of these like you are going to be just coloring them a certain color, and trying just to get, and this doesn't have to be perfect, and you'll see why. It has to be close to where you want it to be in terms of color, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And so all I'm doing is the flower part in the Festive Berries, the floral part of it, and then with the Evergreen Bough, I am going to be doing the leaves. And as you can see, this is small, and so that's helping me get into those areas, but it's also going to get a little bit onto the flowers. And again, it's going to be okay. This is more of a watercolor abstract part of the design. So right now we've got all that ink on there. And so the first thing I want to do is I want this to be wet. So it's kind of like a watercolor technique. Really is, honestly. And then we're going to also spray this. And that's why I'm using this mat today, using the glass mat, because my other thing would just get totally ruined. So you can see it's kind of bubbled up on there. And then all you're just going to do is just figure out where you want that to go, and you're going to put that down. And the wetter you get it, the more it is going to bleed out. And if you don't, then it's not going to bleed out as much, and it's going to be more concentrated. But I really want the more of the bleeding out look, and you can see how that looks really good that way. You can see how it's the one up at the top is bleeding out, and that one's a little bit more stained, and that depends on too if it's wet. So I am not going to waste this part of the ink. I am going to continue to use it on this paper, but I need to spray that again. And I'm going to just do it down here in a couple of these spaces. I am going to be using this again, but I'm just going to try to fill in the space down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to fill up with the other part, this part up here at the top. And you'll see why. I did it the other way around when I tested it, but we're going to do it this way right now. That really works. I even get this spot down here. Okay, now you could technically just leave it that way if you wanted to, but I am going to continue. I'm going to dab just a little bit of this water off, and I'm going to do that again. We're just going to go ahead and you can see how that's really kind of cool. It's got a little bit of a watercolor abstract look to it. And this is really fun. You can see how quick it goes. And you can take your time. I'm doing a little bit in real time. I'm not speeding it up or anything. And because I'm doing it in real time, it also takes, you can see the time that it takes, which isn't very long. All right, this stamp is a really good stamp for doing this technique too. And you see I got a little bit of my fingers up there, the pink, then isn't gonna matter. So again, I'm spraying my stamp, and I'm gonna spray mist this again because I want it to do a little bit of bleeding. And then I'm just turning this around the other way at the spot. See how that works really well? And I'm just gonna lay that down on top of there and lift that up. And see, I just think that's so pretty. And again, I'm gonna use a little bit of this to fill in that white spot. And I think I'm gonna come back down here and see if I can fill in a little bit of that didn't get that as much. And I could even really technically go in that center right there. Yeah, so that's our look for one of the designs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that aside and let that dry. And we'll use that for part of our technique. So the next one, we'll just get rolling, get some of this ink off my fingers so I don't bleed too much on the other one. This next one is going to be using the Pansy. So I'm going to be taking this one off, although I probably could have stamped that again someplace else. And we're going to do the Pansy. Just drying that off a second. And I'm taking the larger stamp from the Pansy set. And I'm putting that on my acrylic block. Now, I want to do a little bit different. I wish I had more distressed inks. In fact, I'm going to probably get some more because I really like this technique. But I would like to have a darker violet than what I have, but this is what I have. And so that's what I'm going to use. So the shaded lilac is going to be the flower blooms. I had put some yellow in my original one, but it didn't show up. So I'm probably not going to use the mustard seed in this. I'm just going to use the two colors. But if you have a way to get your color in that center, I would say go for it. But this is what we're going to do. And then I'm going to use a different green, which is the Shabby Shutters. And again, all I'm going to do is try to get the ink on the green part, the foliage of the, it's not the bloom, as much as I can. And I'm kind of just using, I don't know if you can see, I'm kind of just using the tip. I'm not putting it flat down. I'm using the tip like it's a marker in a way, if you want to call it that, just to try to get those areas. So we're going to do the same technique. Just to show you that you can do it. You could probably do this with all of the flowers that are in the Flower Fairy set. So you can see how that, you can see the purple kind of like in that and the green. And then we're just going to go ahead and you see, I can see that my thumb is still got ink on it. So there's a red up there. So I'm going to try to flip that over instead and spray it here. Because that is the only disadvantage I can tell you is the, if your finger's got any ink on it, it's going to bleed onto this because it's wet. So probably smarter if I would have just washed my hands first. Let's see if I can touch this with a clean finger. So there you go. You got that one. That one's super pretty. So for this one, I don't know if I can get much of a... I'm going to have to do this one 3 times just to try to get that extra, like you know how I faded more out down there. And this one's a little wet. So I'm going to tap that up a bit. I'm actually making some pretty paper towel designs on there. So again, I'm just tipping this to one side to just try to get the blooms. And then I'm going to do the green. It's a quick technique, and you can do so many things using this as your base for designing your cards or your bookmarks or whatever you want to do. So again, I really should see if I can get that red off my thumb a minute, so I'm not gonna get more on there. Yeah, that's pretty good. These sprayers work really good if you don't have a faucet nearby. All right, so let's get this sprayed again. I'm gonna rotate that and have to spray this a little bit. And it does make a difference if you don't spray it, because I tried that too. So we're gonna go completely opposite. All right. Trying to make sure I don't have any ink on one of these fingers. There we go. And that's really pretty too. So I think though what I'm going to do is I am going to try this and see if it works, but I have a feeling that I don't have enough ink on there. It's hard to see the purple. I could see the red really easily. So there's a little bit of a faint showing there. So again, I don't know if it's wet enough. We'll give that a little bit. Turn that around and use that end right there. Again, remember, this is just like the background. I'm just using that for the background. Yeah, so I'm going to add a little bit, I think, more to it, and just do it one more time and fill those two spots in. And you know, every time you do it, you can, you know, you just look at it and you say, okay, I need a little bit more there, and then just add it. So just adjust to whatever it is it turns out, and it's different every single time. I mean, it's basic, has a basic look, but it's always different. I'm sure you probably can make it look as close as possible, maybe. All right, so again, I'm going to spray this. I'm going to spray this again. And even if I do, I have a teeny tiny bit of red there. It's not going to matter. I can either cut that off, or I can come back in and ink the, just ink the edges of this. So I did it this way. And the red really you won't notice the red, because I could ink it with a different color. All right, so that works really good. And then we'll use this side up here. All right, that works. So we have a really pretty floral background. Now, if you want these to lay relatively flat, you can do a couple of things. What I do, you can actually put this acrylic block right on top of it and let it set for a while. Or you can let it dry, and you can, I actually iron mine on with my iron on my ironing board. That also will make it so that it lays a little bit flatter. And I know there's other people that will run it through their laminators without a laminating sheet, and that also will keep it straighter. So we've got our two designs, and let's see, where did I put that? Oh. So we've got our two designs, and from our two designs, you can see like these up here are really blurred out, and this one's more prominent. It always will be different. So we have our two designs, and from that we can then stamp on top of those if we want. And I'm going to go ahead and get set up for that. Okay, so I've got the Rosalie Rose all set up on here, and because it's dried, and actually this was the first, I'd made two of these of the same rose one. Let me show you the one we just did. The one we just did is this one. This one is my first sample that I did before I did my taping. And so like I said, each time you do it, it's going to be different. And so for this, all I'm going to do is use a VersaFine Clear Nocturne on top of this. And yes, this is a distress ink as opposed to the oxide, but it should stamp fine because it's dry. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I don't have any. I can see a little speck of something on her, and that will stamp. And we don't want that to stamp. Make sure your stamps are clean, because if there's any speck of dust or whatever, it will stamp and you won't be able to make it change. I've had it happen because I couldn't see it. Alright, so those are all set up with VersaFine Clear Nocturne. You can see how it's going to look even better now, just because you can see the ink on the stamps. And it can be as simple as this, and you can use this in your project. You can turn this into a bookmark. This is just the beginning of what you can do. And it was super fun, super easy. I might need a little bit more ink, and nope, I think I got it. Just didn't press hard enough. I think she could use a little bit more. I think the rose looks great. I'm just going to add a little bit more to her, because I have her on here. I want to get it done. And then I'm going to set up the, yeah, that looks great. You can come back in here. You can color those if you want, but you know the color from behind looks really pretty. I might change out her wings a little bit, but I just think it's a really nice start to a card or a tag. Or you could actually start and just be a tag. But I'm going to probably put a backing on this, make it into a tag, or add it to the card. You can see how beautifully that stamps. And the background was just super fun to do. So, okay. Now the pansy one I did is this one. But this is the first one I did. And I'm going to go ahead and use this one because it's dry. And we'll just get that set up really quickly. I always try to line up my paper to the grid that's in here, so at least I have a better chance of stamping something straight. You can also leave room for a sentiment, like I said, or where there's a third floral, and that could, like I said, could go on the card base, and you could put this next to it. I think I was going to go this direction, yeah. Let's see. I want to see which way I like better. You know what? I think I'm upside down. But you know what? I'm not going to undo that. I'm just going to stamp the other way. It's easier. I think we'll try it. Yeah, I think we're going to go this way. Yeah, I like it better that way, I think. All right, and then we have our little flower here, or we could have done. Let's see if I can find that very quickly. All right, I'm looking for I might not be able to find it really fast. I'm looking for my other pansy. There's a third pansy flower, and there, I think that's it. I think that's right. Oh, you know what? I think I grabbed the wrong one. Yep, anyway, so there's a third one, and it's kind of more of a corner. And I think it would look really pretty too. Oh, here it is. Sorry. I had it on the wrong. So you could even do this, because it won't fit here. You see what I'm saying? And it looks kind of funny going that way a little bit, because it looks like the leaves are going the wrong way. So it could go like that very easily. So we're going to go ahead and get that set up. Okay, so I've got this set up, and I did add the butterfly, and I think I'm going to keep both those together. There's a chance, though, I could really make this one go a little bit closer. I'm going to take this one off, and once I stamp these, I'll see if I want to put that closer. And again, I am using VersaFine Clear Nocturne. Looks like I'm also stamping my lid, and I didn't mean to. All right. I still didn't get that off. All of it. There we go. Yeah, it's going to need something more. I can just tell from looking like this. I want more, I think, unless I want this to show. It could have a sentiment right here. That would even be pretty. Might even go that route. I never know until I get this all together for sure what I want to do. Unless I've done it before. All right, needs a little bit more ink. Although the butterfly looks good. There we go. That looks great. So let's just see. I don't know if I want a sentiment or if I want this corner. If I want a sentiment, I'm going to have to find one. All right. I want to see if I can get that a little bit closer. Yeah, I think I'm going to, well, I also like that working down there as well. Well, maybe I can do both. Let's give it a try. And again, you can kind of see how when you go to do your stamping, the first layer, background, if you want to get all of that covered, if you want the white to be the way it is, or if you want it to cover, if you want your stamp to go off the page that you're stamping on, so many things you can change. And this is just a scrap piece of paper that I cut from having access to a card. So I'm really not wasting anything. All right, I do like that, but like I said, I think this will still fit. And we can get that on there. And this is, I believe, a 3 by 5.5. Put it on there a bit better. Piece of cardstock, or like I said, it's just leftover. It's just a scrap. And I usually have all that size scrap, and I thought, you know what? I should really make something with them, and I kind of like this idea. All right, that looks fabulous. And see, I can really come back in here and color those too, and her skirt, and it would look really pretty. So we've got 2 completed. All you have to do is either put them on a card, and I have an idea for a card too I think would be really cute, is you can still do this technique off to the side of your card, right? And then restamp on top of it and put a sentiment here if you wanted to. So lots of things you can do with this idea. I hope I inspired you. Let me get that other one to show you. Put those together right here. It really wasn't messy, not really, when you think about it. It was pretty easy to do this. Just takes a little bit, not too much time really either. So those are the 2. Let me get that a little bit closer. Those are the 2 we worked on today. And I hope you can see how you can use all of the flower fairies. There's like 22 of them. And even the fairies by themselves would be really gorgeous on a card. And you could just make a total floral card as far as that goes too. It's just really fun. I appreciate you stopping by today. And I do hope I inspired you. And we'll see you again soon.